Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far the World Championship is well underway. The favourites largely getting through their matches, but it was far from plain sailing for many of these teams. Loads of storyline to get into. OpTic just about to get the job done. Snoopy was impressive, but they move on to play subliners. Very much enjoyed to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Let's just dive straight into the action. This could have been day one of the final hurrah when Scump was meant to play his, I think it would have been his 100th professional tournament. Didn't happen though, it was watch partying and OpTic were in action. First of all, I thought it was really cool to see Clay on the desk here, and it seems like this is going to be a thing for the entire weekends. Usually the way the desks are set up on a major weekend is you've got Puckett, you've got aLLeY and Nameless, and then you have just one additional guy that they bring on. Usually it's one of the casters, right, that they just bring on for the segment. This time though it's Clay, and I thought Clay was killing it on the desk. And it was really nice to see. I know a lot of people were giving him a lot of compliments for his, how he was on the show, and I thought that's great, but I don't want Clay to get too, confident that he's great on the desk because he might not come back next year as a result, but he's definitely made for this next year or in the future if he wants to go down a route like this. And there's many pro players that, given their career in front of the camera and how long they've been around, would be very well suited to this type of role. So I thought it was really cool to see from Clay, and yeah, hopefully he gets on the desk at some point in the future, but hopefully he at least competes in one more year. That's what I would like to see anyway. I believe he even said on the desk as well that his plan is to still compete if he gets the offers. I think Zuma said it as well. And there were some questionable things, let's just say, happening before this first series of the day. Like, this is a reaction to Kismet, of course, coming out onto the stage. And it seems like this checked him out a fair bit because he got absolutely body slammed game one. And that was the series. Attach and Priester, two of the teammates actually that won together back in 2018, playing against each other here in the very first round. Rokkr versus subliners. And these first round matches are always very interesting at champs. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for their opposition. If a team comes out slow, if one team comes out hot, it can make a big difference. That's what happened here game one of the series. Attach came out swinging, and Kismet, I guess, just lost full because of what we just saw and had a bit of a hard time here. But yeah, Attach was absolutely everything the first couple of maps of the series, was unkillable game one, got very competitive towards the end, and this was such a banger way to start off the World Championship. A 250-226, really a grueling hard point. Game two, though, was Fame had some good rounds. Attach, again, was really difficult to kill, and in a bounce, well, very quickly indeed, Rokkr go up 2-0, and subliners, the reigning champions, down 2-0 in the series. Rokkr were looking great in the first couple of maps, but New York didn't lose composure. I thought this one was going to be a close Game 5 series. I didn't think it was going to go this way, to be honest. But look, in Game 5, I didn't expect subliners to lose 2 searches in a series. And there was a round here, like Hydra was doing a lot of killing, but he was also doing a lot of team killing. And some of which was on Skies, his own teammate. I believe he took down Skies actually during one of the, I think it was the offense they won. And it looked like it was going to cost them the round. It didn't. They clutched up anyway. They eventually got the job done, go up 2-1, and then they blew them off the face of the earth. And this is the thing with subliners, right? People were like, oh, where are these guys? So they just made, they line up or whatever it is through the wall merchants, right? The live pings, right? That we mentioned a while ago. Were they abusing that at Major 4 or Major 5? Was that why they were so good? I don't really think it made much difference. So they showed here very comfortably Game 4 why they are still a serious threat. This actually broke the record for the entire season of the most dominant hardpoint victory. The record to this point, I believe, was 250-68 or 69. I think it was the Ravens on the losing end of that. And this was 250-66, actually. It says 65 here, but it was 66, and they just absolutely demolished them, right? This is subliners at their very, very best. Game 5 was very tense. It was back and forth. Few good rounds here from Fame, but in the end, subliners had enough. There was a round, actually, I think it was round 9, the one that they lost just before this, that they will feel gutted about the way it went for them. And Bance individually had a really tricky series here. He's been great for this team, Bance, over the last several weeks. He's a key reason why they were looking competitive with this new iteration of the roster, but he had a bad series here, and we'll look at the numbers now. So that was the job done for subliners. Honestly, what a grueling series, right? A reverse sweep to kick off the tourney. We haven't even had that many of those this year, and it starts here. Great for my fantasy, actually, because I've got Skies, Priester, and Hydra all in my team, and they all fried. Hydra, I must also say, his current streak of individual performances is up there with the best runs we have ever seen from any individual player. The level he's played at for the last month, it's so inevitable what he does. Even if he starts a map kind of poorly, he's gonna get at some point in the map a 6 or a 7 spree, and he's going to get streaks. And yes, sometimes he might kill his teammates with those streaks, but still, he's always good for insane numbers. And to just come in and drop another 1.3 is just so outrageous. Kismet has, you know, a decent time actually after a tough map 1, but Bance at a 0.6, and that's pretty ugly. So yeah, that will definitely come back to bite them. Yes, a lot of this was skewed by a tragic map 4, and it was competitive, but once subliners actually turned up and came to play, they were comfortably the better team here. And I'm sure many OpTic fans and maybe Boston fans at the time were looking at this thing and damn, here we go, Rokkr could win this series, knock out one of the pre-tournament favourites to losers, but it turned out that subliners now are going to carry probably more confidence than ever, because often these round 1 games can be gruelers. You get over the hump in an impressive manner, they're going to be hella confident going into round 2, that's for sure. Next series up then, FaZe versus the Seattle Surge, and this was somewhat more interesting than I thought it might be. The first 2 maps though were just a bloodbath. I mean, they just smoked them, and honestly, last year, earlier this year, this would have been competitive. They still show glimpses, Surge, of being quite good. Like, at times you see the potential that got them to win that Major 3 event last year in Vanguard, but it's so rare that a team that is terrible 90% of the time sticks for 2 years in a row. Like, I think Surge, after this year, are going to be possibly top 5 longest teaming squads ever. There aren't many teams that have gone to 2 years. Like, okay, the OpTic Dynasty, the FaZe team during the Jetpack era, the FaZe team in the, the Cold War into Vanguard days, right, with Arcitys. That's 3. Even the Envy team during the Black Ops 3 Infinite Warfare, I'm not sure that was quite a full 2 seasons because they formed early on during Black Ops 3. So Surge are like one of the longest teaming squads ever, and most of the time they're just bad. I mean, they've lost to everyone that isn't Los Angeles Guerrillas this entire season. Now, Slasher was frying. I don't know, the people were saying, like, if Formal was in the venue, it would be a different story, but Slasher always tends to turn up well at the end of the year, and certainly is at the moment. He's playing one of the best players on this entire team. aBeZy was coming different game 1, and accuracy, he did indeed drop the donut. There was an unfortunate circumstance at the end of the round where he thought, okay, maybe aBeZy didn't see me, I can kill him, and then make sure Simp, I think it was the last alive in that case, couldn't defuse the bomb, but he gets spotted out, accuracy goes down 007, and it's just not pretty for this guy lately, and especially the way that this went with Bance and accuracy, veterans of the scene, been to, like, you know, 7 championships, 7 world championships, something like that. Might be the end for a couple of those guys, I guess we'll see. So yeah, FaZe, they win the Search and Destroy, and it looked like it was going to be over, right? But in fairness to Surge, they did bounce back, and this will give some optimism to the other teams in the tournament, because if FaZe had come in here and 3-0 smoked him in 30 minutes, that would have been a real sign for the competition. But the fact that they got beaten quite handily on LSELO control will give other teams confidence that FaZe are still gettable at. It's not going to be easy. They always do very well, and, you know, accuracy versus Slasher, the numbers here are pretty one-sided, and that's how the series ended. It was actually very competitive, though, on Fortress. I think Surge went up like 110 to like 13 or something. Like, they had a 100-point gap. I looked back a couple of minutes later, and FaZe were leading by like 40 points, and then they didn't look back from there. So I don't know what it is with Fortress and massive FaZe comebacks versus Surge, but it was the same thing that happened right at the start of the season, and this is a wild stat. 17 wins, 4 series losses for Simp and aBeZy at Champs as a Joe, spanning across 5 different CODs, and these were the overall numbers. So yeah, Slasher, aBeZy, Cellium doing the normal thing. Simp actually had the most damage to his credit, despite having the least kills, and accuracy with a 0.6. But honestly, Sib was making some highly questionable plays. It was the AL, like, Mack did quite well. I thought game 4, Mack was actually trying to keep them in it. Pred was the only man in the Search and Destroy as usual, and he was the only man just in that control who really took over and won them that map, to be honest. But both of the ARs just had stinkers. Like, Sib has just straight up not been good for the last 2 to 3 months. Don't get me wrong, he was great at the start of the season, but the last few months he has been very suspect indeed, and it will be hurting his stock for sure going into the off-season, because there were rumours a while ago that Simp was going to get a serious offer from a big team in the off-season. I'm not so sure that's going to happen nowadays. Pred most certainly will. Before we get to the OpTic series, they want to discuss the teams of the year. They come out with these 2. I actually think the second team as a squad is probably better than the first team, but given the way the guys have played this year, the first team of Scrap, Cellium, Hydra and aBeZy make sense. This second team of Pred, Shotzzy, Dashy, Octane, I find it funny how they revealed this. Just after Pred, I imagine, was not the happiest man, just getting booted off the main stage by FaZe. And, I mean, yeah, I will just share this and the caption associated with it just for interest, let's just say, with these guys coming on stage here at an interesting time for sure, going into the OpTic series that was just coming up after that. Let's talk about it then. Here was the map set. It was interesting for sure. I felt like Boston had some chances here in the middle part of this series, but OpTic, I think, should still be favoured. I thought probably a 3-1. That's what occurred. There was quite some talk, though, before this series happened about how Boston had looked, because I was convinced this team was not going to work. They had no clear leader. Their comms were going to be a disaster. And when we heard their comms game 4, I don't even understand what these guys were saying half the time. I mean, there was like just no good communication. The difference between Boston's comms and OpTic's comms, where Ghosty is like, you know, going UAV mode, is night and day. And Scump was even saying on stream that people said from scrims that they were the easiest round 1 game and they've been getting slammed lately. According to Parasite as well, Surge 11 point clubbed Boston, so they apparently were not looking good at all. But to me, the highlight of the series was this moment where Blades actually stepped aside for Doug said to Martin maybe to step onto the main stage. He did make it to champs after all to introduce the team, and this was by far the most hype, introduction that I've seen in a very long time. The Doug introduction was absolutely fantastic. He brings the boys out onto the stage, and yeah, there was a lot of crowd reaction to this one. It was just an awesome moment actually just to see Doug up there, and I genuinely still believe they had a better chance in this series with Doug in the roster. Snoopy, though, you got to give this guy some credit. He is legit. I thought, like, Snoopy walks out here, right, in front of what is a massive crowd, and I want to give credit to the crowd as well, because I was not sure what it was going to be like here on Thursday, day 1 of the tourney, but there are, like, this is a big crowd, and it's going to get even bigger and even louder over the course of the weekends. Like, this is obviously down at the front here, but all around the grandstands, like, there's a lot of people there already, and Snoopy had to walk out here and look dead in the eye. Like, Snoopy's face here just kind of looked like he was like, oh my god, here we go. First professional series of my career up against OpTic, up against this. Like, it's not going to be easy, but the very first, like, moment really of this series, Snoopy, like, was just flying, and he was getting kills, and he was looking legit, and this is an incredibly impressive performance, I thought, here from Snoopy. The way he plays this game 1, given the circumstances, and also the entire series, I thought was very commendable. But OpTic are just better than Boston. The way the team works on Boston still doesn't make any sense to me, and the hard points, they were struggling again. They got comfortably beaten in both of them. OpTic didn't have to do that much right, I don't think, to take down Boston here, but they played a solid game for sure. The search and destroy, though, was definitely questionable. I thought it was cool that Karma came out as well afterwards, so we didn't see Karma, I think, walk out with the guys, but after the fact, Karma was still there with his new buzz cut he's got going on, and I think that's working for them, so Karma's definitely still coaching the team. There were some good moments in the surge, but OpTic definitely trolled this a bit, because they had, I think, 9 first bloods out of the 10 rounds in this. It might have been 8. The scoreboard, final scoreboard said 8, but I think one of the first bloods was like a Boston team kill with a trophy or something, so OpTic definitely had advantages, man advantages, in almost all the rounds. I know Beans was walking around with the sniper like he was just Prime Kenny S or something, just taking picks and finding advantages, but still, OpTic should have done better with all the first bloods they had, absolutely. There was a nice clutch here by Ghosty on Beans, but after this, a couple of quick rounds went to Boston, and it was a 6-4 to them. So just looking at this overall scoreboard, 8 first bloods, I think it might have been 9 actually, and OpTic only win 4 of those rounds. That's definitely something they're going to have to clean up, and they will get exposed if they do that against some of the better teams later in the weekends. Some juicy controversy as well here in the control, and this is, if this was Drazah, it would be going wild, and I still think there's going to be a lot of discussion on this, so I'll probably talk about it a bit more detail tomorrow. But Ghosty was effectively, and quite blatantly really, abusing some of the stair glitches. If you guys aren't familiar with this, if you lay down on certain staircases, they can't really see or shoot you, and I thought, you know, competitive integrity for some time has been out the window a little bit, and even OpTic tweet this out before then deleting it after realizing that they just tweeted Ghosty using, like, basically breaking GAs. They then deleted this tweet and tweeted this one instead, where they do win the map. So an impressive result. I don't think Ghosty stair glitching really made much difference right in the series, but still, from a competitive integrity perspective, there has been some debate on it already, and I'm sure it will continue overnight, and it's probably going to be another talking point we will dive into tomorrow. But OpTic do win the control. Impressive, because Boston are certainly good at this mode, and then they close out the series. Wasn't incredibly convincing, wasn't incredibly comfortable. This game as well was borderline criminal from Awakening. I'm telling you guys, this is why I would have dropped dropped Awakening for Doug, because Doug would not have gone 18 in 3 with 2 sets of streaks while being down a good few points in the map. Is that because Doug actually can't go 18 in 3 against OpTic? That's probably part of it. But is it also because he doesn't play for kills as much as Awakening does? Maybe that's part of it as well. I mean, I'm sure Boston fans are looking at this thinking, how did Wake go 29 in 17 with like 2 sets of streaks and we lost by like 100 points? I mean, it just shouldn't happen, but it's another Boston absolute classic. So we'll look at the numbers in a second. Just before we finish out the video though, that means another crazy stat. Huke and Shotzzy are undefeated at champs. Yes, they've only played one champs back in the Modern Warfare days where they won, but still, they extend that record by yet another series. These were the numbers then. Kremp, honestly, ever since he came in was great, and then ever since then, he's definitely slowed down a lot. But Awakening with another vintage plus 10. I mean, OpTic got it pretty much the same, was dead even. But again, it's classic Boston, right? This is why you want Doug Sentimata. But whatever, I'm going to stop going on about that anymore. Snoopy, I thought was great. Fantastic job from him. OpTic move on. They'll play the subliners. Just what they were looking for. They needed to get this W. Boston might be the easiest team in the game to beat. We don't really know, but they're going to have a big challenge against subliners tomorrow. The final series of the day, Toronto versus Thieves. I'll discuss that one tomorrow morning for you guys. It's getting late here already, and there's already been a lot that we've got through, but very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.